You know those perfect little rice balls that can be found at just about any convenience store in Japan? Well, they're a lot easier to make than you think. Oh, everything hurts because I'm sunburnt. Onigiri, arguably the most perfect on-the-go snack ever made. It's portable, it's filling, and it's so simple that even samurai used to bring them into battle snacks. And today, I'm gonna show you how to make the 3 most popular styles: traditional, mazekomi, and yaki. Plus 3 easy ways to shape them so they actually look as delicious as they taste. The first and most important thing we need to go over is our rice. Generally speaking, when I see people having a hard time making onigiris, it's typically because they have the wrong rice, because not all white rice is made the same. For an onigiri, you don't want to use something like a long grain rice or a jasmine rice. They don't have enough stick to them, and so they're going to end up falling apart on you. What you do need is a Japanese short medium grain rice. The grains are a little bit shorter and a little bit thicker, which all works together to help make it a little stickier. Now for the amount of rice we're using today, I'm going to be going with 3 rice cooker cups of rice. This is a rice cooker cup, and it comes with your rice cooker. And despite it being a cup on here, it's actually not a full cup. If you fill it up to the rim, it's actually about 3/4 cup. I actually don't know why it's that way. I never questioned it growing up. I just did what I was told, never questioned it, like a good Japanese boy. But that said, we're making enough rice to make about 6 to 7 onigiris, depending on just exactly how big you make them. And before we fill this up with water, we actually need to rinse it first. It's important that you rinse your rice pretty thoroughly, because if not, there's lots of dust and sometimes even rocks that just can be in there and you can end up eating, and that would suck. So give it a few passes with some cold water until the water is running mostly clear, and then we can just go ahead and drop it back into our rice cooker. Now for the amount of water you need, because I used 3 rice cooker cups, I just went ahead and filled it up to the 3 line in my rice cooker. Oh, sorry. But if you're using a rice cooker but not using a rice cooker cup, then you're just gonna wanna go about 1 portion rice to about 1 1/4 portion of water. It's gonna be a little bit more than you would use on the stove. If you're cooking your rice on the stove, it's a 1-to-1 ratio of rice to water. Again, I'm not really sure the science behind it, but for some reason, that's just the way it works. I don't question it. Now we can just move this guy back here and let it cook. Song of my ancestors. And now while we wait for that rice to cook, we can start working on the filling for our first onigiri, spicy tuna. But I also need to be honest with you, because it would be foolish not to be honest with you. I just don't know what happened this morning. My brain farted, and I got canned salmon and not canned tuna. So spicy salmon onigiris. The first thing we're gonna wanna do is go ahead and open our canned tuna salmon. We want to drain out all the liquid. Because we're making onigiris, we don't want our filling to be super wet, because if it's wet, it's gonna make our rice wet, it's gonna make the rice less sticky, it's gonna make it all fall apart. A wet onigiri is not an onigiri anymore because it fell apart. So we have 1 can of salmon, but you can use tuna if you want. About 1.5 tablespoons of Kewpie mayo. Definitely start small with this and then add more if you need it, depending on how dry your tuna is, or salmon. 1 teaspoon of sriracha and 1/4 teaspoon of sesame oil. Sesame oil is really strong and it goes a long way, so don't do too much, because this is gonna make like 3, maybe 4 onigiris worth, and you don't want it to be too overpowering. Then we can use a fork to just mash it all together, get it all nice and mixed. And my salmon is looking a little drier than I would like it to be, so I'm gonna add in just a little bit more Kewpie. It is always easier to add more if you need it than to take it away if you overdid it. So just add a little by little. And there we have our first filling, spicy salmon. And now that only took about 5 minutes, and our rice still has like 35 minutes left. It's a great time to like, comment, subscribe. Share this video with a friend. Only if you enjoyed it though, because if you're not enjoying it, then don't do any of those things. I don't want to force your hand. But if you are enjoying it, doing those things is a great way to help support the channel, and it's totally free, and it's just really nice to do. But more than anything, I really just hope that you're enjoying the videos. Okay, now that our rice is finished cooking, we actually need to give it a fluff and let it cool down a bit, because we don't want to use completely fresh rice, because it's going to be too hot to work with, it's going to be too malleable, it's going to end up being mush. So we just need to give this a nice little fluff. Oh, realized you can't see that. Sorry, scooting. There we go. And then we'll just close it up and let it sit and hang out for 10 to 15 minutes. And now that our rice has had some time to cool down, you can see it has no issue sticking together. And now to form our onigiri, it's gonna start with a plastic cutting board. Now you might be thinking like, why do you need a plastic cutting board? Simply because the rice sticks the least to the plastic and a lot to the wood, and then it's hard to deal with. Because our first onigiri, we're gonna be using an onigiri mold. This is the easiest way to make your onigiris. It's going to be the least hands-on in a way. You're just stuffing the rice in there, stuffing your filling, adding more rice, pressing it out, and boom, it's done. As As we get to the other two onigiris, I'm gonna show you two other ways to form your onigiris that don't require a special piece of equipment. But if you do wanna get one of these, they're pretty cheap and I'll leave a link down below. Now the first thing we're gonna wanna do is we're gonna add in a base of rice to our oni mold. You don't wanna go all the way up with your rice, you just want enough to cover the bottom, about 1/3 section of it. From there, you can use your finger to spread out a little bit of a hole here. Then we'll sprinkle on a small amount of salt, just a pinch, and we'll add in about a tablespoon of our filling into the center. It's really important that you don't overstuff your onigiris because if you do, it makes it more likely that it'll fall apart because there's not enough rice housing it all together. Then we'll go ahead and add in another layer of rice, just enough to cover up the top here. And then this mold comes with a little press, so we're just gonna go ahead and place that on top, give it a nice firm press. Then we'll hold down the top and lift the sides. Onigiri. Now for the nori part of our onigiri, we're just gonna need a simple sheet of nori. Then we'll just go ahead and fold it in half, give it a nice creasing, flip and fold the other way, and then simply pull it apart. From there, you can carefully place down your onigiri on one half and then fold up the other side. Tuck and tuck. I present to you a traditional onigiri. Now, when you're tearing your nori for your onigiri, it doesn't have to be this big. I like this big because it tends to hold everything together a lot better. Obviously, if you just have a little sliver of nori, you know, like a G-string for your onigiri, it doesn't really hold much together. And this gives you a little bit more to work with and a little bit more of a safer bite. See? Nothing falls out. Isn't it great? It's great. But optionally, you could also just continue to fold these and cut them into smaller pieces until you have nice uniform strip onigiri G-string, whatever you want to call it. It's really more of a personal preference. Now for our second onigiri, we're making a mazekomi, which simply just means mixed or blended in. Because unlike our first onigiri where we just put the filling in the center, this one we're gonna mix in our fillings with the rice and then form the ball. So instead of being just a little bite in the center, it's all spread and blended throughout. It's nice. Personally, it's my favorite way to eat them because then you have a little bit of everything in every bite. And for our filling today, we're going simple with Spam and eggs. So for that, we'll need Spam. One tap, ready? Technically speaking, one tap. I just pulled with too much force and not enough grip. I was kind of worried that if I flicked it like that, it would just kind of go out, but it said it just fell from my hand. Now I feel embarrassed. And now that we're both uncomfortable, we'll go ahead and just slice up about half of this can of Spam. You really don't need too much. Arguably, you could do a third. Yeah, we're just gonna do a third. Cut those into slices, those slices into strips, and then give those strips a nice little dice. Just like our first recipe, we're making enough to make the full, 6 or 7 onigiris here, so this will be plenty. And now for our eggs, well, egg, because we really only need one. One farm fresh egg, or just an egg, I guess. It doesn't have to be farm fresh. Technically speaking, I don't actually know what defines a farm fresh egg. Aren't they kind of like all from a farm? And then just in general, you want fresh eggs. It's my personal thought on it. My knowledge on chicken keeping and the freshness of eggs is fairly limited. A little bit of salt, and then you don't have to do this, but I like a little bit of sugar, if I can get it. There we go. It just helps to add a little bit of balance, and it's a nice little extra punch. But you don't have to if you don't want to. Onigiris are literally the do whatever you want food. They're the perfect food to be like, you know what, I want this, or I don't want this. Do whatever you want. If you have leftover brisket, put it in an onigiri. That's a great time to use it. If you've got a chicken tender from Chili's, you got a leftover chicken crisper, chop it up, throw it in an onigiri. It's the perfect vessel for a lot of things. So do with it whatever you want. It's just to make you happy, because as long as you're happy, it's all that matters. Now we can go ahead and just cook our Spam and eggs. We're just using a non-stick pan simply out of convenience today, but if you would like to learn how to make scrambled eggs in a stainless steel pan, then you should subscribe, because I've got you covered. I've got it coming. It's in the pipe. It'll be here. If you subscribe, you're gonna know about it. Subscribe. First up, we've got our Spam. These are cut into nice small pieces, so they shouldn't take very long to cook at all. Run a nice medium-high heat, and get a good sear, and then be done with it. And now after just a few minutes searing away, they're good to go. We can remove them. I'm gonna use the leftover fat from our Spam to be our coating for our eggs, and I'll just pour those right in. I'm gonna move this around just so we get a nice and flat, even surface, because we're gonna end up chopping this all up, so I don't want big curdles. I really just want one thin layer of egg that I can easily just... That's not a chopping sound. This is a chopping sound. Much better. Now after that first side is set and cooked, we can just give it a nice little flip just to set that second side all the way. It doesn't have to be perfect because we're gonna chop it all up anyway, so do the best you can. It's all that matters. And once that bottom has set, we're just gonna go ahead and move it back into that bowl. And don't worry about that leftover egg that's in our bowl, because the heat from the cooked egg is gonna cook it. Or if you want to, just use a fresh bowl. I don't want to. Now before we mold our onigiri, we need to mix everything together. And if you were just using this recipe and just making all of it mazekomi, like this, just all mixed in, then you dump it all in your rice cooker and chop it all up. Because I'm making 3 different types of onigiris, I'm going to be removing some of my rice, so that way I have some non-mixed up together for the last recipe, mixing that in with some of our cooked Spam, as well as some of of our egg, and some furikake, which is just a rice seasoning. And they have tons of different varieties of this, and you can find them on Amazon, you can find them in a grocery store, and not even an Asian grocery store. You can find them like in just regular Kroger's, like wherever you can find it. And if you're like my grandmother, then after you're done using the entirety of this jar of furikake, then you can remove the top and then turn it into a cup. And then those are just the cups that you have in your house. No other cups, just empty furikake jars. It works. I miss her. Now we can just use our rice paddle to chop up that egg and just fold everything together. And for the furikake, it's more of a personal preference on how much, but start with a little and add as you go. Then once we're all nicely mixed, we can go ahead and mold it. And instead of using our mold, we're gonna be doing this a little bit more hands-on. For this, you will need a piece of plastic wrap, saran wrap, pellicle, whatever you'd like to call it. And then from there, I like to take about 150 grams of our onigiri rice, but also like you don't have to measure it, just like eyeball it. Right around there looks good. Then we're just going to take our corners, pull them together, and we can start to mold it together in our hand. The important thing here is you wanna make sure that your wrap is tight, and then as you're forming it, you're basically going to make a cup with your hands up top, and your bottom's gonna stay like this, nice and flat. Makes a nice triangle. We'll just press and rotate, press and rotate, press and rotate, until you've got your form and your shape. Once you've got your shape mostly there, you can just press with your middle and your ring finger, and that'll help to give you those flattened sides versus the curved, rounded edges. Then once you're happy with the shape, you can simply just unwrap it, and there you have your hand-molded onigiri. Now for this one, I wanna show you something super cool. If you were going to eat your onigiri right now, great. You can put your nori on it, and you can wrap it, and it's good to go. But if you were going to eat your onigiri at a later point in time, and you want that nori to still be fresh, you want it to still be crisp, then you can order these bad boys. This is a sheet of nori that is specifically designed for an onigiri. It's designed in such a way to protect the crispy nori from the moist rice, so you don't end up with it being soggy and gross. You can buy these in a nice large pack on Amazon. This one was like 20 bucks and it came with 50 sheets. It's not the best price for nori by any means because you're also paying for the convenience factor, but it's really nice. Now to use our sheet, we're gonna go ahead and lay it face down, place on our onigiri ball on one end, and then fold up the top. Then similar to before, we can just fold down each side, and then we'll use the accompanying cute stickers to hold them together. Part of the reason you pay for the thing is because the cute stickers themselves make it worth the extra cost. Now to unpackage your onigiri, you're just gonna pull on this little red strip all the way down and around, and now we can just pull each side of the plastic wrap off to reveal our nice crisp nori on our delicious onigiri. See, you hear that? Still crisp. And this is our mazekomi onigiri. This is good stuff. And now for our final onigiri, the yaki, which just means fried, but not deep fried. We're not gonna deep fry our onigiri, we're just gonna pan fry it. You'll see. You're also gonna learn how to mold this one completely by hand and even make your very own little nori slip cover sheet things. Maybe even learn how to make a cute sticker too, who's to say? But the first thing that we need to do is make our basting glaze. This is what we're gonna brush over top of our onigiri as we're frying them in the pan. It's gonna give us a subtle sweetness and a little bit of umami, and it's gonna be where most of our flavor comes from. So for that, we'll start with 2 tablespoons of shoyu, 1 tablespoon of mirin, and 1 tablespoon of brown sugar. Now this is more or less just a variation of like a teriyaki sauce or a musubi sauce. It's super similar, and if you have something like that already in your fridge, go for it, use it. You just wanna mix this all together until most of that brown sugar is dissolved, and then now we can move on to our rice. Now because we're gonna be molding our rice by hand this time, we need to make sure that it doesn't stick to our fingers. So first things first, jewelry off. Then we've got a nice cup of water here, bowl, and we're gonna add in a nice hefty pinch of salt. The salt is going to season our rice as we're molding it, and the water is gonna help it keep from sticking to our hands. Now this is just like we did with our last onigiri, except this time we're not gonna use a wrapper in between. So the first thing we're gonna wanna do is wet our hands with a little bit of that salt water. Also wash your hands. I realize I didn't tell you to do that, but wash your hands. You should have done that already. You should have done that at the beginning, but also definitely do it right now before we touch the food. Don't be weird. Now, once our hands are nice and damp, we're gonna go ahead and place some of our rice into our hand, and we're just going to start to press and mold it very gently. Again, I like about 150 grams per rice ball, but quite honestly, it's more of a feel thing. Like I almost never weigh it out unless I'm like really trying to be specific, which doesn't really happen often. So just use enough rice to make you happy. And if you need to, go ahead and re-lubricate your hands. Now, the key here is you wanna use force, but not a ton of it. Because if you press it too firmly, you're going to change the way that the texture of the rice is. And it's gonna be really gross and mushy. So just enough to hold it together, but not so much that it mushes all into one. Again, we're doing the same thing that we did before, which is just cupping with our hands, cupping on the bottom, and using our top hand to mold that triangular shape, rotating and rotating and rotating, press and rotate, press and rotate, press and rotate, press and rotate. And after less than a minute, you should be left with your very own hand-molded onigiri. And now you also might be wondering why we didn't put anything into this one. It's because traditionally with Yaki onigiri, you don't stuff them with something. That said, if you want to, by all means, do you. But for our case, we're not gonna be stuffing this one. We're just gonna be searing it. Now to fry these onigiris, again, we're gonna be using a non-stick pan. This time it's more of a need than a want, especially with something like rice, because rice sticks really easily. And we're not cooking this at high enough of a temperature where we're gonna get that same release on something like stainless steel or carbon steel. So something like this, best to go with non-stick. We'll go ahead and just preheat this to medium high. Then we'll add in just a touch of a neutral oil. We're not looking to have a thick layer here. It's literally just enough to make sure that our rice isn't sticking. Make sure that's nice and spread. And then now we can go ahead and take one of our rice balls. We'll go ahead and baste on one side. Not too much, you don't want to drench it, because if you drench it, it's gonna fall apart. And then we'll place that face down. Now we'll just let these sear for a couple of minutes. You can give them a press here and there just to make sure they're getting full contact, but otherwise you just kind of let them sit. Then once that first side has had a chance to sear, we can go ahead and baste our tops. Again, the important thing here is not to drench them, because if you do, that's all liquid that's just gonna seep down into your rice and then cause it to fall apart. And then from here, we'll just carefully flip them. Don't use your hands. You should use a spatula. I'm not. Don't do as I do. It's unsafe. And then as you can see, that first side has got a nice little crisp to it. And we're just gonna kind of do that a couple times until we've developed a really nice crisp that we're happy with. We can give these another baste and another flip. And then once you've done that a few times and you're happy with the sear you've got on both sides, you can go ahead and remove them and we can wrap. Now to make your own tearaway wraps, you're going to need two things: tin foil and tape. We're just gonna MacGyver this thing. You're gonna start by tearing off a piece of tin foil about twice as wide as your nori sheet. Our nori sheet for reference, one here, about twice as wide. Now we're gonna take a piece of tape and we're gonna place it straight down the center. Once we get to the end, we're gonna let it go about 2 inches, tear it off, and then we're just gonna fold it over on itself, just like that. So now we have a nice little pinch tab. And now from here, we can just lay our nori sheet rough side up. We're gonna leave about a finger space at the top, and as well as a finger space at the bottom. Technically speaking, you don't have to leave the finger space at the bottom. You can just leave the giant extra chunk here, but it does make it a pain to use. So I'm just gonna trim it off. Maybe you're in luck, and maybe your tin foil is the right size. Mine is not. And now once we've got that trimmed, we can go ahead and fold over one side of our tin foil, and then we'll fold over the second side of our tin foil. And just like that, we've created our beautiful tearaway nori sheet. Start by laying the folded side up, carefully place down our onigiri, and then we'll just fold it over. Then again, we'll fold, then we'll just fold over the corners. And now for the most important part, our very cute stickers. A pen, more tape. We'll start with the eyes, then we'll give it a little nose and a little smile. Let's give it some pupils. Maybe it's looking over at the corner. What's going on down there? You know what, let's stick the tongue out. Give it some surprised eyebrows, maybe some rosy cheeks. Oh, those kind of look like clowns now. I don't like it. And then let's give it a little face with maybe some bear ears, so it feels less like a clown and more like an animal. What is that? That's not as cute as I thought it was gonna be. But here, we'll add a little heart. And now it's super cute with its lopsided ear. Then we can just fasten the sides with our super cute stickers. And then when we're ready, we'll just pull down the tab and then carefully release each side. And there we have our delicious Yaki onigiri with a crispy nori. Thank you so much for watching. I really hope that you enjoyed it. I really hope that you learned something. Here's some videos I think you'd like to watch next. Here's a photo of this random couple that got engaged right in front of us on the beach on our cruise last week, and I'll see you next week.